Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending our town council meeting this evening, Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. Beautiful day out. I think we lost summer. Hope everybody had a good summer vacation. But thanks for coming out. It's chilly out and it's going to just get colder. And so we will take roll call. Albert.
Present.
David.
Here.
Melissa.
Here.
Doug.
Here.
And Pete.
Here.
Okay, all are present. If you would, please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, council, approval of minutes, February 15th, 2023, regular and closed session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there was one correction on page 7. We've got 2 seconds instead of a first and a second on a motion. We have 2 seconds.
Who wants to take the first?
I think it was Albert,
Okay,
and then I took a second.
okay. Thank you, David. Okay. And then February 28th, 2023, special meeting minutes. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
Discussion? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
And also, we didn't vote on the February 15th. We did have motions. Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? And Pete?
Aye.
All righty. Okay, on the regular agenda, due to some additional things that have come out over the course of the last, few days, council, I'm requesting that we move the short-term overlay district request, we table it till further notice, so council can do additional research. Do I have a motion to table that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete? Ladies and gentlemen, what we just did is we just, under the public hearing section, the short-term overlay district request has been tabled for this meeting. It will not be heard. It will be heard at a later date once council has time to reflect on some additional information. Okay? Also, in addition, council, under the regular agenda, number 4, the Eagle Scout project, it's been requested we move that to number 1. Are you all amenable and acceptable of that?
Sure.
Okay, so Eagle Scout project will be moved from 4 to 1, and the comprehensive plan will follow up from there. So those are the changes to the agenda. Did we cover it all? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make
The
a
agenda
motion
with
on the consent agenda with the exception that we table the overlay district on the regular agenda.
You mean the regular
Regular
agenda?
agenda, yes.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the changes to the regular agenda. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Okay. Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Okay, very good. All right. Consent agenda. Tax releases, tax refunds, tax releases 2022-08, tax refunds 2023-03, 2022 tax advertisement request, budget amendment 2023-07. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, no discussion under consent agenda. Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is approved. moving right along. Okay, we have our public comment section. If anybody would like to speak from the audience, please give your name to Hillary and what you would like to speak on. So far, we have Miss Virginia Powell. Miss Powell, would you like to step up to the podium? She looks familiar, guys. Would you give us your address, please?
Hey, I'm Virginia Powell. We live at 255 Country Club Lane in Blowing Rock. I'm just up here real quick for you guys to plant a little seed. Out in the community, we have people signing up to go to several restaurants, and they're gaming it if they have a big group of people, and they sign up on their phones to go to several restaurants, and whichever one they get to, then they spread out on Main Street and go to that one first, and they don't tell the restaurants that they went to that restaurant. And as y'all know, I'm a realtor, and a lot of restaurants are for sale right now. So just if you guys would consider food trucks. I know we talked about this when I was on the council, and it might be time to look at that ordinance again and do a temporary lifting of it. I'm not sure what the right words are, but when the town is really busy, we just don't have the restaurants like we normally do, and going into the season, if we can be proactive and maybe some entrepreneurs can come and be here on busy times, not on times that would take away from our restaurants that are struggling right now. But that's all I have to say. I hope you think about it and consider it going into the season.
Thanks for doing it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Virginia. All righty. I'm sure moving forward, that's going to be something that's going to be brought up more and more, so just get to sleep on it. Right, presentation. This is the New River Conservancy update on stream restoration. The director, Katie. Hello, Katie. How are you? Good to see you. Yes, if you would, please step up, podium, and Shane's going to give you the controls. Thanks for coming this evening, ladies.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. We are both going to present if that's okay.
It's fine.
I'll let you start. Well, I'll start off and then introduce Katie. She's a real star of the show today. But just a couple words about the New River Conservancy. My name's Elizabeth Underwood. I'm the executive director. I've been in this seat since June of 2021. I'd also, in addition to thanking you all for this opportunity to talk about New River Conservancy, like to introduce our board chairman, Mike O'Connor, with us this evening. Mike is a Blowing Rock native, so you probably know him. He also serves on the volunteer Blowing Rock Fire Department, but we are blessed to have him serve as our longstanding board chairman of New River Conservancy. So he's given countless hours of leadership and advice to me and to our board to help create a better and healthier watershed. Couple points about the New River. We do flow north through 3 states, but as you all know, we start right here in the town of Blowing Rock. We like to say that the New River Conservancy is the watershed is 320 miles long, but we protect both sides of the river, so that's 640 miles of watershed. It is an economic driver for all 3 states and the many, many cities that live within this watershed. And we'll circle back to that as I talk about the New River Water Trail. I always like to have the slide about our history. We evolved into the National Committee for the New River in '76. I mentioned before that we're a 3-state organization. Our board is equally representative and our staff is in all 3 states, but we're really proud of our North Carolina heritage because it was the folks that joined with Senator Sam Urban and Jesse Helms to get the wild and scenic status that precluded the high country from being flooded, 40,000 acres with the dam. So these are just some pictures of our earlier days going back to the 70s, and we evolved into the New River Conservancy. The next slide in the other, on this direction, highlights some of the many things that we do, large scale stream restoration projects that Katie's going to talk with you about. We have an active citizen science program that is doing water quality monitoring. This program has doubled since last August, whenever we had a staff member who retired. He's a fish biologist, and now it's his part-time job, but he really knows his area of expertise. So he's doubled our water quality program, and we think that that's going to keep on growing under his tutelage. We also are a land acquisition and land preservation organization. We currently own 4 pieces of property. We helped buy a mountain in Ashe County and a forest in Grayson County last summer. So we'll continue to work on acquiring land and then working to donate it or sell it to the state and local city entities for protection. We also currently hold 39 conservation easements. We do a lot of river cleanups, and those are some of the areas to increase our volunteers and really get some, I'll talk about trashing numbers in a minute, but those are things we can quantify. When I was hired, the board had 3 major directions: increasing resources, working with public policy advocacy, and working in higher education with our scientific research programs. We do host a symposium. We were at App State just a couple years ago. It's a biennial symposium, so we look forward to coming back to the high country. Last fall, we worked with App State in a class that was grant funded, where the students went out and did some water collection and produced a project. Katie traveled with them up to DC, where they presented in front of the Appalachian Regional Commission. So we're really happy with our collaborations with App State and all of our higher ed institutions. We want to continue to strengthen them. The next couple slides are really just public policy. I was down in the State House at met with Melissa's husband, you all know, Ray Pickett. We're very happy to have him serve our area, and I probably saw more of him than you did last week, Melissa. I know he's working really hard in the State House for us this time of year. And so the next slide, I believe, is the one where I talk about trashing numbers. We've been collecting data since 2001. We've pulled over 440,000 pounds of trash out of the New River and over 14,000 tires. We're getting ready for our river cleanup season. Actually, this weekend, they haven't canceled it yet. We'll be out picking up river in the South Fork in Watauga County. And I say that to say, if there's a certain stretch of the river, the hardest thing about doing these river cleanups is finding what section we should do, where do we put in, and where do we take out. As far as filling up the raft and doing the real work, we have that down to a science with our SOPs. So if that's something that you all would like to share, please feel free to email us at any time. I think the next slide was the largest animal to live on planet Earth, and we pulled more than 441,000 pounds out of the river. So that's especially fun with youth as we're doing river cleanups. And at this point, River Builder is a great segue into Katie's area. This is a grant that we've had since 1998. It is funded through the North Carolina Land and Water Fund. We work with private landowners in the high country to do a cost share program where we can go into private land, do some consulting, and if it's deemed a restoration project with our criterion, then we'll help do the cost share of planting plants to build up a healthy riparian buffer zone. Kate is the expert that we hired to facilitate that grant and many more. So I think at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Katie, but first want to give her an introduction. Katie lives in Watauga County. She is a graduate of App State University with both her undergrad and master's degree in biology. We met her last summer. She came on board July 11th, was her first day. When she starts talking about the 8 open projects and the 5 grants that she submitted here in the high country and the 319 funding that she's been able to secure, you're really gonna wonder how long she's been with the New River Conservancy. You might find it hard to believe it's less than a year. And Mike, I think you and I feel pretty good about the hire with Katie. So Blowing Rock is really important to us, obviously, with the headwaters to this great river right here in the town of Blowing Rock. We're doing a lot with you all. We want to do more with you. We want to thank you for your help with the Middle Fork, and we're going to ask you for some continued support because this is a great undertaking to look after North America's oldest river. We love what we do and we want to keep doing it. We appreciate your help. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Katie. I think I've made her blush a little bit, but she's very worthy of it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I know that we had in our slides, they're going to be a little bit out of order now, so I'm going to flip a few ahead and then we'll come back to those at the end. So as she said, my name's Katie. I'm the restoration director. I have only been working with the Conservancy since last July, but currently, let me backtrack a little bit. So my job is more focusing on river restoration projects. That's everything that I do is river restoration. So that means the 13 projects that we're currently looking at are all under my umbrella. And I know about three or four of those are in Watauga County. One of them is specifically in Blowing Rock. So that's mostly what I'm going to cover for you guys today to give you updates on that project. But as she said, there's a lot going on. And if there's anything more that you guys see that needs to be done, please let me know. And I'd be happy to come out and see if we can get stuff rolling. So before I talk about the updates, I usually try to kind of say what our goals are when it comes to restoration. So with the river or streams in general, since we're looking at the whole watershed, so that includes our tributaries as well, we're trying to take a section that is degraded or unhealthy and return it back to its more healthy and natural state. So what that kind of looks like is going to be, first of all, riparian buffers with woody plants. And so if you're not sure what riparian means, I'm talking about that immediate area outside of the water itself. It's very important for us to have that woody native vegetation in the ground instead of just the grasses or the other herbaceous plants, because they actually hold together the soil better than the other plants do. So in the top, the top picture here, it kind of shows like the ideal example of what that would look like. So we want it to be robust. You want it to cover the area. So it's not only providing stability for the riverbank, but it's also providing filtration for stormwater runoff, as well as protection against flooding and habitat for the wildlife. So that kind of leads into the next section that talks about we don't want erosion. So erosion is as simple as you're just taking out the sediment and the soil that's on the riverbank. This can lead to several different things, including a decrease in water quality, a loss in property, because you have that sediment input to the river and now it's exposed, because you typically get those vertical banks. It's going to be exposed to the floodwaters that we get around here, or the high pressure from angles from the meandering, things like that. So we want to try and take those banks, kind of put them back into more gradual slope and cover them with plants so that they're protected and we're not impeding the water itself. And then last but not least, of course, we want to make sure that the aquatic habitat is thriving. So of course, when we think about the waters and the rivers, a lot of the time you end up talking about water quality for our sake, because we take a lot of our water from the New River in certain locations. But it also has to do with, it's important for the wildlife that lives in it as well, because there's a lot of critters or creatures, whatever you want to call them, that are pretty sensitive to sediment or other things that are in the water itself. So that's kind of what we have in mind when we're going into projects. So just to kind of recap that I'm really only going to be focusing on one project that's happening here in Blowing Rock currently, and that's the Middle Fork New River Restoration. So I'm sure most of you probably are familiar with this project, so I hope it's not too redundant, but I'm going to try and give you just some updates on what's going on. And for everybody else, I'm also going to give a little bit of background in case you're not aware. So this picture is showing the location. So this highway right here is actually 321. We're kind of up here somewhere on the map. This is the water treatment plant. So the stream or the river itself, actually this is the Middle Fork. It goes from upstream up here and then downstream this way. So all along this stretch, there is a lot of vertical banks. There's not a lot of riparian vegetation, and the water intake plant is actually losing property right now as we speak, because the river, the way it's set up, it found its way in a meander kind of close up to that corner, so it's eroding the corner away. And I'll show you some images of that too. So we're going to go in and try to help stabilize this area, protect the property, protect the building that's there, and kind of re-stabilize this area. So these are some images. This is what it looks like right now, and this is actually only the upper section of it. But you can see those vertical banks right here as well. These are the same images, but kind of show you different angles. This is also the downstream area right there as well. So you can see both sides aren't the same. It's kind of like opposites as you go throughout the section. but those vertical banks are a problem, especially since this is kind of a quick turnaround for the river. A lot of pressure gets put on that bank, which is why it's continuing to erode. So this is the fence that is actually on the corner of that, the water plant property. This used to be in the ground. And I'll show you some images here in a second, like a timeline of how that worked out. But this is where it's at right now. So we're actively seeing erosion in this area. So focusing on the red square, that corner of the fence, this was 2019. This was 2020. You can see those banks got a lot higher in that 1 year period. This is 2021. So now the fence post is actually leaning back against the slope. And then 2022. These are even higher than they were in the beginning. So that's kind of just showing you what it looks like and the need for the restoration in this area. So our restoration will include enhancement of the riparian buffer. As I'm sure you saw in those photos, there's not a lot of vegetation. So we're gonna go in and make sure we're kind of reestablishing that woody native buffer. We're gonna realign about 1,200 linear feet of the channel. So this is kind of showing you, clicking too many buttons. It's going to show you the area. It's about 1,200 linear feet. So we're going to kind of stabilize that meander away from the plant right there. And then you can see where the old stream is currently. So it's going to be stabilized that way. And then we're going to create some off-channel wetlands, which will help with stormwater capture and flooding, as well as to boost the wildlife and the habitat there. All right. So far, we have the design and engineering is complete. This was actually done a few years ago with Land and Water Fund funding, as well as help from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, pairing with Middle Fork Greenway and Jennings Environmental as the contractor for this. And I will say that this area is also kind of, we want to repair it and restore it because soon the Middle Fork Greenway is going to go near it. So this will also help protect it for recreation in the future. So the construction for this is also fully funded. It is with North Carolina Land and Water Fund and DEQ Section 319 funding. Total construction is at almost $600,000. So it's a pretty hefty price, but it's definitely worth it in the end instead of losing that building that's several $1 million. Last year we hit a little bit of a snag as far as our timeline goes because we figured out since we're crossing Blue Ridge Parkway land, we needed to have a special permit called an environmental assessment, just to make sure with the Parkway and the National Park Service that we were not impeding upon the environment. So this is where Blowing Rock came in. Thank you guys again for helping us fund that extra little bit that we needed to get this to move forward. So Blowing Rock helped fund this aspect. I keep hitting the wrong button. Sorry about that. For $50,000 to get that EA permit done. So as far as our timeline goes, last year we mostly focused on that environmental assessment. So we chose the team. They worked on it for pretty much all of last year. We thought it would go a little bit quicker, but that wasn't necessarily the case, and that's okay. So we are actually into this year. We secured the contractor that will do the construction, and we have gotten very close to the end of the EA. So this is actually, I got an email this morning that said that the final edits from the Park Service came to our contractors, and so they're finalizing those and it will be submitted in April. So with that being said, once that's done, it will be sent out for public review, which means just allowing the public to see what's going on, making sure everybody's okay with it. And then once that goes through, we can start construction. So we're hoping that that will happen in Q2, which is April to June. If not, it'll start in Q3. And then we'll hopefully close out and be done by the end of the year. So that's some good news on that part. I don't have anything else as far as the project goes. Before I flip it back to Elizabeth to talk about the New River Water Trail, do you guys have any questions about this project?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Did you like it?
Sure. The only thing, Katie did a wonderful job of explaining it. The only thing else that I would add is our partners at Blue Ridge Conservancy have been wonderful partners to work with. You all know about the Greenway and the trail that they're doing. When we started this project, we thought we could do a joint environmental assessment, and we were both kind of lockstep ready to do that. And the Blue Ridge Parkway, as you all know the story, asked us to do individual ones. So hence the time frame. But we really appreciate the collaboration that we've had with Blue Ridge Parkway moving forward, and certainly with the Blue Ridge Conservancy. So great friends. The last thing that I wanted to mention to you all is an initiative that we're currently working on a grant for, and it's the New River Water Trail. Going back to three-state organization. The great thing is that our partners in Giles County, Virginia, have created the New River Water Trail. It's registered, it's trademarked, they have a great website. And what I would say is it's more than just a website, it's a tool for economic development. In fact, they've really used it as a marketing and tourism tool in their toolbox to grow Giles County. A couple great things about what they did when they created signage, and they have high water bridges throughout the New River Valley. They did water trail markers for all of the miles, and they started them with milepost 0 down here in Glowing Rock. They've invited us to join in with them, share their trademark, their all of their wayfinding signage templates that they've used, and to really make this a three-state comprehensive trail. So that's the idea. Right now, Appalachian Regional Commission has many grants out for bid right now. One of them is the ARISE grant. That's what we're looking at. The ARISE grant has two different sections, a planning grant and an implementation grant. We are working on a planning grant right now with a concept paper that we'd like to deliver by the end of the month. If we were to receive the planning grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission, they would fund 70% of the cost of the planning process. We need to have 30% as the match. One of the good pieces of information is that because it's a federal project, volunteer hours count towards our match. So we started collaborating with Shane's counterparts in all of the different municipalities right before Christmas, and put together a government affairs task force. Mike sits on that. On the task force, we meet over Zoom. We decided we'll meet once a quarter, and that would be great. And after 2 meetings, they decided to meet every single month. So we now meet the fourth Tuesday from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning over Zoom. We have various partners from all over, all three states are represented, elected officials, appointed officials, planning districts, high council of government, and I'd like to extend that opportunity for you all to join the task force. I know usually I get, Elizabeth, I don't need one more meeting when I put that invitation out there, but this thing has really taken on legs that we started it with the board of directors, and it just kind of grew immediately. But we've heard through the Appalachian Regional Commission that what you want to do is make sure everybody's on board before you submit your application. So that's kind of the point that we are, is this is growing faster than we thought it would, and we take that as a good sign. If we were to get this planning grant, we would ask for 18 to 24 months to work together with all the different municipalities. First and foremost, we see this as an economic development tool. Secondly, we see it as a safety mechanism. So whenever tourists or boaters are out on the river and they have an emergency, they're able to locate a mile marker when they make that 911 call, as well as, and you all are kind of already doing this with the wayfinding and the signage. So having that universal signage on the waterfront. But really what the planning grant does, what I've been told, is it sets you up to have an implementation grant. So looking at a planning grant, we're looking at a six-figure number. We have to raise 30% of that before we can submit it. But we're told, and I was on the phone earlier this week with the senator's office in Virginia, that Appalachian Regional Commission is flush with money right now. They're still spending the ARPA money, and we should really be going after a 9 to 10 figure grant for implementation dollars. So first we apply for the planning grant. If we do the planning process right, we're teed up for the implementation grant. The more robust that we undertake the planning grant, the bigger that we can dream with the implementation grant. So that's really where we are right now, and I come to you all with the invitation. If you'd like to join our government affairs task force that is still nascent, getting off the ground, and also Shane, for your support and the mayor's support, whether it's letter of support, volunteer hours, and if the town of Glowing Rock would like to contribute towards that 30% match. Again, the bigger the match we're able to get, the bigger the planning. I was in conversation with a contractor this week, has done a lot in the high country, and it really helped me realize that we need to dream big in this planning part process so that we can dream even bigger with the implementation dollars. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the idea and the grant that we're working on for the New River Water Trail, making it comprehensive.
Council, questions? Well, thank you. Thank you so much for all that you're doing and all your hard work.
Thank you for the time to be here with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good presentation. I tell you, between this group and the Wendy and her group, all the other conservancy groups, it's amazing what they've been able to achieve. So thank you so much. All right, moving right along. Blowing Rock Academy, CUP 2023-02. So I'll turn this on over to Mr. Kevin Rothrock. Evening, Kevin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a special use permit, being quasi judicial. Anyone that wants to speak on it needs to be sworn, so you too. Anybody wants to speak on this special use permit, is going to be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear? I'm sorry, right hand,
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
Right.
Oh, you've been doing this thing?
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give to this body in this matter being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Almost put my gavel up on that.
For shame.
So, Mayor and Council, first I'll read the staff report, and then Shane will do a presentation for you as well. The town of Blowing Rock is requesting a special use permit to create a daycare center in the community club building located at 108 Lakeside Drive. Property is currently being used for occasional community events. Property is .219 acres and is zone R15, single family. Town's requesting this special use permit to locate a daycare there, formerly the Ruritan building, and based on the available space between the building and the property line on the south side and the rear of the building, a small deck may be added for access and access to the lower level, the ground level. The purpose of the request is to provide daycare services to town employees. The predominant age bracket for the daycare is from birth and infant to school age. And due to the size of the building, the town anticipates not more than 10 children at any one time being kept in the daycare facility, but could potentially be up to 20. The Watauga County Health and Human Services Department would determine the maximum number of children and the various state requirements for the daycare facilities. There's no parking directly on the property, but there is parking at the pool parking lot and also at the gravel lot. Parking would be mainly for the child care worker, and then the drop off and pickup would be at the pool parking area. This went to planning board in February, and at that meeting, the planning board made a recommendation to approve the special use permit. In your packet is a draft special use permit for your review, and then in the packet was also an aerial site plan and a view from the street. Now, that site plan showed property lines being through the middle of the building, and that's not accurate. We did have the property surveyed, and the corners have been located, but the surveyor is still preparing a final survey plat for us, so we can determine if at what length we can provide a deck on the south side and also maybe in the rear. So, any questions of me at this time?
Are there any variances requested?
No.
You don't think it'll be one once you've got the property lines marked with what the deck's gonna need?
No, it will be in good shape. It won't be very wide. It might be 6 to 8 feet. Access deck or a way to get down on the south side. But that was just initial understanding of where the property lines were when the surveyor was out there. I think we've got some room to do something.
If we were to approve this, Shane, you mentioned there were some timelines with state approvals and things like that. Would you review those, please?
I certainly will, if it's okay, I've got it within the presentation.
Oh.
If that's okay, yes, we kind of
Okay.
go through my presentation towards the end, I'll talk through the next steps eventually.
Yep.
Is that okay? Wait
Yeah,
till then?
perfect.
You will be addressing who and how much, right?
Correct.
And John Warren, building inspector's here if we have questions that come up about the building.
I only have, did notices go out to the neighbors?
You did? Yes, sir. Property was posted, and it was in the paper too.
Okay, thank you.
Counsel? Good. Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Fox?
Thank you, council, for allowing me to speak tonight as an applicant for a special use permit. So this is definitely a first in my tenure here. We've labeled this Blowing Rock Academy. So it's a fancy term that we're using to name our potential child development center. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation to go over tonight. Feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions as I go through our Blowing Rock Academy outlook. First, we'll start with a statement on childcare. We'll then go on to discussing some issues with childcare, most notably the lack of childcare within Watauga County and the cost of childcare. And then what can we do, which gets us to the Blowing Rock Academy and the benefits of the Blowing Rock Academy, and then an outline and next steps potentially of what that would look like if we were to approve this tonight and move forward with adopting the Blowing Rock Academy option. Statement on childcare. Childcare is a business issue. COVID-19 exposed the previous invisible or forgotten link between childcare and the economy. All employees must step up and make childcare a priority to retain and recruit employees. This is based on an article in 2022 by the Harvard Business Review. We have needs here. You all know what I'm speaking of. We have a number of children that are brought to work on a daily basis because of lack of childcare, even childcare that is non-existent because of the lack of childcare that's happened during COVID. And so we'll go through some unfortunate issues that Watauga County has in regards to childcare, with really regards to two main issues. Lack of childcare. I put here no spots. And we'll talk some numbers in just a few moments of what that looks like nationally within the state and then here within Watauga County. And then second issue is really the cost of quality childcare. So if you can find a spot or a slot or whatever term you use for your child, the sheer cost of that is astronomical. And we'll again talk about what that looks like from a statewide and then again here in Watauga County, along with our proposition to the Happy Blowing Rock Academy. Start with lack of childcare. Again, I put some articles here. I won't go through and read each one. Just wanted to put some recent articles. I think anytime anymore, especially with me, maybe it's my ears are more in tune to it. As I flip on the TV or open up the newspaper, you see an article with regards to childcare and childcare issues. Here are just a few of the most recent headlines that I picked out from the New York Times, ABC News, and CNN, all dealing with childcare and lack of childcare issues, especially since the pandemic took place. Here's a recent study that was put out by the Reading Nation. 8,000 parents were surveyed. And again, reading through some of these percentages of the parents that were surveyed and the outcomes, unfortunately, because of childcare issues. 23% said they'd been fired because of childcare problems. 26% said they had to quit a job over childcare issues. 37% said they had their pay or hours reduced because of childcare. And 41% said they turned down a job offer due to childcare concerns. Again, 8,000 parents interviewed for this study in 2022 by Reading Nation. Overall, economic losses because of the underpowered childcare industry is $122 billion based on the study in 2022, 3.5 of that in North Carolina. I did put in here, prior to COVID, that number was $57 billion. You see the difference there between the 57 and 122, just in about a 3-year span. Unfortunately, that's the economic impact because of the lack of childcare. Locally, Watauga County has approximately 2,000 children under the age of 5, but only 659 total spots. That's including private that are registered in-home and our commercial centers. So you see the difference there of over 1,300 children. They're finding ways, whether that's with mom or dad or guardians or grandparents or neighbors or whoever. Over 250 currently in Watauga County are on the waiting list. Some of those waiting lists are over 2 years. We have 4 employees right now that either have infants or are pregnant that are on waiting lists that are in excess of 2 years. So This is a real problem that exists currently within our town, within our town employees. If you are able to get a spot, if you are able to look up and plan ahead a year or two into the future and find a slot for your child that's maybe yet to be born, the cost of quality child care was pretty staggering to me as we went through and looked at some of these numbers and talked to you all at the retreat about. Child care is one of the biggest expenses that families face, so one of the biggest. Infant care in North Carolina costs $2,125, or 28.9% more than in-state tuition for four-year public college. And we'll talk about Appalachian in just a few moments to give you something that kind of hits locally. That makes North Carolina one of 33 states in DC where infant care is more expensive than college. North Carolina infant care costs just 8.6% less than average rent, and that's based on 2022 data. The average annual cost of infant care in North Carolina is $9,480. That's $790 per month. Watauga is a little bit more than $800, which averages out to $9,600 per year. If you have a teenager or a child or someone that you're sending to school or yourself through Appalachian State, tuition and fees, $8,152 for that same time frame. So it is cheaper to send yourself or someone through college, tuition and fees, than it is for child care in Watauga County. That to me was pretty staggering. I did not realize the cost of child care. So what can we do to assist? I put here, think outside the box, which is the Blowing Rock Academy and what I'm presenting to you today. Why Blowing Rock Academy? Listing of things here that I believe will have instant impacts. Starting with retention of current employees, providing a peace of mind, having the children here on site. We're promoting or proposing the community center. We say that's on site. That's here within the town, so in walking distance, it's within lunch distance, it's within break distance or nursing distance or whatever you want to call it. We think it will boost morale, increase productivity, and higher quality of work, having the peace of mind of having the child here. Decrease in absentee. This is something that's big that I didn't put in here. I shared with you during the retreat. There is studies across studies that having quality child care will reduce the absentee issues that often parents face because of child care issues. Encourage families. We say here we're family as a family, and we encourage families to be first. We believe, and through conversations with potential employees that participate in this, it would very well maybe increase their family size given the cost factor and the ability to have on-site daycare. Smooth transition over after maternity leave, something that we're dealing with right now on several instances with mothers that are out on maternity leave, and this would make for a smoother transition, again, for being on site and having the peace of mind of having the child here with individuals that would be employees of the town. And then overall, as we go through and talk about the cost that we're proposing, it would relieve the financial burden that would potentially be there if they were paying some of the fees that we talked about just a few moments ago. And then secondly, recruitment of employees. We do think this would be a potential game changer and set us apart. We are fortunate, as I shared with you during the retreat, to have a full staff right now. We do have a new position that we have posted for our finance position, assistant finance position, but that's a new position. We are fully staffed. We've had no turnover this past year. I think we're doing some good things. We think this will help with that and also help us within the labor pool of recruiting some unique and great individuals into the town of Blowing Rock. So an outline, we are discussing this and proposing this for full-time employees, children within the home of full-time employees. So we do have a couple instances of young children that are living in the home of grandparents. So we are proposing this for children within the home of full-time employees, not for the public. So I know that's been discussed or rumored out in the public. We are not proposing this and would not ever propose this to be an open for the public entity. This would be just for our employees and children within the home of those employees. Put here Park and Rec. Our actual summer camp, I said examples of success. We've had nothing but success as an example. We don't think this would be anything different other than success. Our after-school program and summer camp program are tremendous. We have a waiting list for both of them. Most of the time they fill up before they ever go to the public with returning individuals and siblings, et cetera, that find their way back into our program. So we have a building success example within our after-school program and summer camp program. We think this would just build onto that success. We are predicting or proposing, I should say, the location as the community building. And I've got some pictures in a few moments and a diagram of what we do need to do to that building. I put here underutilized. We are unfortunately only receiving about $2,000 a year. I put here $2,150 on average for rent. So it is an underutilized building, unfortunately, most of the time. And our hours that we are proposing for this, again, are 7:30 to 5:30. We are planning on starting with 2 full-time employees. One would be considered a director, which is required to be on site, and then another full-time staff with 1 part-time staff. We are planning on starting with up to 10 children. Current ratio is 1 to 5, so it would allow us to do that with the 2 full-time individuals. And we could have up to 20, as Mr. Rothrock spoke earlier, based on the square footage. So the state will dictate everything that we do here. As we talked earlier, or as I think you were asking Pete earlier, some of the requirements there. The state Health and Human Services Child Development Center Division dictates everything that we do here, from square footage requirements, outdoor space, et cetera. So we would not be able to grow any further than what they would allow for us to grow. You've heard of the STARS program, a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star program. Those are really based on 3 criteria: the program standards, which is essentially a curriculum as you would have within a school system; educational standards, those are mostly with the teachers that you're hiring; and then the environment itself, so the building itself. We want to do this the right way. So our proposal is to, number 1, get the environment, the building, up to the high standards that's required to help get points towards the STAR system. Number 2, we would propose hiring individuals that have accreditation, individuals that have a degree that would allow us, again, to move a couple steps up on the platform. And then we would propose, as Ms. Pickett spoke during the retreat, of having a full curriculum from babies all the way up to our preschool. That would, again, we believe, allow us to start very high on this list, a 3-star, 4-star program. What that does is several things. We'll get into the monthly cost here in just a few moments. A STAR system does allow you to potentially go after federal and state money that would be available to us. So we put here under the grant section, the stabilization grant, child care development block grant, Smart Start. I put the General Assembly because we're hoping that we're going to be creative enough and new enough that perhaps the General Assembly would like to tag team with something moving forward with offsetting some of the cost as a pilot program. Our cost, back to the top, as of right now, are proposed at $400 per month, which is roughly 50% of the market rate that I shared with you earlier. Overall, the expense, we believe, will be a negative expense to the town of about $70,000 to $80,000 annually. Again, that's a projection based on the current numbers. I put here, we currently spend about $1 million on our employees and benefits, so we're adding to that $1 million that we do. Our benefits, in my opinion, are why we have some of the employees that we have and the tenured employees that we have. Most of that $1 million is spent on insurance and retirement, things of that nature. We feel like this will be an addition to that that would help us again with retention and potentially recruitment. Our community building does have some needs. These needs are dictated by the state. So we have had several visits within our last few weeks over our community building with state representatives that have required a certain number of things to potentially or to be done to our community building. Things like lattice under the back porch. They frown upon children wandering off and hiding under crawl spaces. A fence around the play area. I put a privacy fence. That's not necessarily true. It just has to be a 42-inch fence, I believe, around the play area and the HVAC system. Again, keep the children contained, right? We do have to have direct access from the inside to the building, of the building to the play areas for both areas. You'll see in a few moments we're projecting to divide or proposing to divide the room up. And so we have to take a window out, put a door in 2 different sections to allow easy access and direct access from both of those areas. A new outdoor porch, Mr. Rothrock spoke, that's really a platform. And again, in just a few moments, I'll go through and show you a diagram of what we're proposing here. Hand washing sinks, as we have found, are very crucial in obtaining especially those points in the STAR system. Having many hand washing stations for the toddlers and the children and the teachers will be something that we have to add. And then again, that interior wall to separate the toddlers and infants. Upfront cost, I put here $50,000 to $60,000 are our projections. We have received some quotes, and we are planning on potentially doing some of this work ourselves internally. Here's our community building. You all know what it looks like. There is an outside picture looking forward. Here is a back area, and I will show you, this is the area where we're proposing a door and a porch, similar size, extending it out to what this looks like. Our property line is essentially this wall that goes down through here. Here is the other side. You can actually see the stakes here in this corner, leading over to the stakes in this corner. We're proposing the back picture to enclose from this corner out and down with a fence that would come back this direction and then come back And our second door would be at this window with a platform that would come down from the building and allow access. Here's an interior picture, what it looks like. Most days, it's a big open room that does have restroom facilities. Back in this area, there's 2 restroom facilities. So based on the requirements at the state level, here is a beautiful drawing that was done by our Park and Rec staff of what we're proposing. So we'll go back and look. Here is the interior picture. And here is our, not professionally done, as our architect on the council has realized probably at this point.
You didn't do that, Dave?
Not skill. Here's our front door now as it exists. Here's our front door as it exists right now. And we are proposing a wall that would be in this area that would connect over. So let's go back. So we're looking at a wall that would go here to about right here and leave this big area open for what we would call our toddler and preschool room. And this smaller room would be infants. Infants do not require as much square footage as what your toddlers do. Here is what I was proposing as being a new door and ramp. The same back here. I think I'm losing battery power on our back window. This window right here. So this window would become a door, and that window would become a door. And we are in need of adding some sinks in here off of what is our storage room right now. This holds our tables. This would be considered what we would call an office area. So that is an overview of my presentation, and I'm sure you have plenty of questions to ask. I can walk you even further through the diagram here. I think Mr. Harwood looks perplexed on our drawing.
It's good.
Be happy to answer any questions.
2 things on the diagram. 1, do we not have to have a water fountain? And 2, I think they still require tempering valves on the hot water on your sinks, unless I'm mistaken.
Yes, sir, to the hot water. No to the water fountain. That is not
Water fountain.
required. Not in the situation. It's not. Yeah, yes to the hot water, though. That is correct. And we are planning, that is part of, not part of the diagram, but that is part of our list.
So Shane, back to the state approval, what kind of time frame do you expect the state to take to approve this?
So we've begun at least what is needed at this point with starting the process. So the building is really the biggest piece and is probably the most time consuming piece of this. We do think this part will take, we'll say, up to 2 months for us to get through, maybe not consistently, but just based on the contractor's timeline. Our proposal would be to have this open around the 1st or middle of July. So that is several months from now, but would give us plenty of time to get the work completed that's needed here behind me, along with the hiring and training of the individuals. We have been contacted by several individuals that would be interested in potentially participating as employees for this, that would come with certifications that are needed and the education needed for us to get them up and running pretty quickly. But our proposal, as it stands right now, we'll say around the middle of July, the 2nd to 3rd week of July is when we would hope to have doors open to the employees.
Thank you.
Are you going to get in deeper into the financial piece of it?
I can. So,
So could we just go back a
Yes.
couple of slides
Yes.
to that?
we certainly can. So what we're proposing is a 50% of market rate. So as I showed earlier, Watauga County averages $800 per month. So we're proposing the 50% rate to lessen that cost burden that's would be on the employees if they were in the free market that was out if they had a spot. We believe, based on our needs, which would be the 2 employees and the part-time employee, along with some overhead cost, utility cost, our annual negative cost, so essentially a loss, would be between $70,000 and $80,000.
Yeah.
A gap to be able to fill.
Okay.
The more children, so there is a break even that happens somewhere around 25. We would never be at 25, not in this facility. Until you get to that point, there is a gap that has to take place. That's why I was deeming it as a benefit. It is not a cost or a profit. The ability to make a profit comes with a higher number that I don't think that we would have unless we were to have a partner with another entity, as in the town of Boone or Watauga County. There has been some early on conversations about us getting this up and running, and I think a opportunity that could exist later down the road if we choose to do so with partnering with another entity. This issue, as some of you have been aware of and have attended some classes and some other things, is not only a Blowing Rock issue, as I shared, it's Watauga County, North Carolina, and the country. So I do think we are maybe being trendsetters here, hopefully, and putting some motivation out there for others to either do it on their own or potentially join with us to do something more in the future. But unfortunately, until you get a little bit higher, the break even doesn't happen. So this would be a negative cost to the town.
It's a benefit.
It is a benefit.
On paper, I think.
It is.
I think it is.
I will add that, retaining one employee or recruiting one employee is somewhere in that neighborhood as well from a cost of hiring, training, et cetera, recruiting. So it is, I will not say that it's a wash, but it's a significant cost to us to lose employees or have to recruit employees, especially in certain areas and certain skill sets.
Council?
Let's go back, 2 more slides, I think.
Back 2 slides, okay?
Back to the retention part. Right. Just to make sure everybody understands that too. We're talking about this being a benefit, that we're not having any problems with the retention. We're not having any problems with absenteeism and a lot of the things mentioned there now, are we?
We are not. So we have a very open policy now that allows children to come to work if need be because of lack of childcare. We are very family friendly here. I think, as you all know, if you show up on any given day, that may very well be the case. So we have encouraged that to be the case here in the culture here, to allow those individuals to feel like they can come to work and do their duty. So we're not having those issues, but I think that's in direct relation to our policy and our openness towards allowing children to be present if need be.
Council? Thank you, Shane. Now, this is open for public hearing. If someone would like to speak on this, please see Ms. Hillary and be sworn in. Okay. Do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve this program?
So moved.
Have a
Second.
Any discussion?
Just thanks to Shane and everybody that worked on putting this together. I think, as you've stated, the benefit of keeping employees and the retraining, if you had to hire new people, is maybe there's some upfront cost, but over the term, I think it's a great deal. So thank you.
Thank you.
This is huge. This is wonderful.
Okay, so we have a first, second. Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Now Shane Fox is in the child care business. All right, moving right along, and thanks again to Shane, Jennifer, Kevin, all those that put time into this. Like Pete said, this is, I think, a great benefit. I really do. Pete, they will be looking for volunteers down there, and I can't work, I'm too short, but you can.
My plate is full, Charlie. Thank you.
I think he's
All right, now, he stayed down. That wasn't nice. Okay, during the agenda change, we moved the Eagle Scout up to number 1. This is Mr. Evan Cutlip. Mr. Cutlip, could you please step forward and thank you for coming?
That's laser.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Town Council, and thanks everybody for coming. My name is Evan Cutlip, and I am here to try to approve my Eagle Scout project, which is just a small little bike track that goes off into some bushes by Devont Field. Sorry. What is a Eagle Scout project? Eagle Scout project is what a Life Scout has to do to finish Eagle. And they have to, thank you. To get to Eagle Scout, the Scout has to do a project that helps the community in some way. So that's what an Eagle Scout project is. What is my project? My Eagle Scout project is going to be building a small, bike track or pump track by Devont Field in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Where? I'm planning on doing my pump track at Devont Field in a open space, not only to provide room for bikers, but also to clear out some of the overgrown trees in the area. This is also a great location because the nearest bike track is 30 minutes away, and we don't have one in town. This will also be a new recreational feature for the town of Blowing Rock. Why? I decided to do this project because I have been planning on doing this for my Eagle Scout project ever since I started thinking about Eagle almost 3 years ago, whenever I joined Boy Scouts. How? I'm planning on executing this project. I'm planning on executing this project by instructing thoroughly detailed directions, images, and designs to all of the workers and Boy Scouts. I also will have strict safety guidelines and will make sure to keep all the heavy equipment not only away from all of the young Scouts, but just Scouts in general by having them separated on different days of the week. So I'm going to be making sure that everybody's safe by not only separating them from distance, but also days and time. With the help of my Eagle Scout project team coach, Ron Cutlip, which is my dad, he's a landscape architect. He will oversee the planning and construction phases of the project with me. This will allow for a safe and successful project. When? Our plan is to do it in the month of April. I'm working on getting a date where all the Boy Scouts can help with the project. Sorry about that, but it's kind of blurry. But this is an image of the site right above the bleachers off into the woods.
Would that be over to your left?
What?
Over to the left?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would be over to the left. Oh, sorry. So it'd be right in here and all through here, because that's just overground. Maintenance. The maintenance of this plan is not as difficult as it might seem, with the only maintenance being once or twice a year, depending on weather, of upkeep by the Boy Scouts. I'm planning on getting a date that the Boy Scouts can work on the project once a year as service hours to do with the reshaping of the jumps. So the only maintenance would be the reshaping of the jumps. The only other thing that we would need is a mower around the edges, not on the track, which the town already has a mower and mows. And this is my design. So I was going to think about putting a small little berm here, along with just some lumps and jumps. I have all the exact measurements. This is about 62 feet across, about 32 feet up. 25 feet up, and then another little berm here. Not that big of a berm. These are all small jumps that will go maybe like a foot high, not that high, so nobody gets that hurt on them. And then we plan on taking this trail up into the woods around the tree, with it being about 12 feet wide, up through here. Still probably about 10 feet from the road, and come around here. We're thinking about putting some logs in here, along with down here. And then there's a river here. So I was planning on making a bridge, but I don't know how that would be with the safety. But I was planning on making a bridge here that comes down and leads into the track. And then another trail that goes through here at like a zigzag design that comes down. That's kind of it. Any questions?
Council?
I got a couple on the barriers. I heard him say 10 foot close to the road at the top.
Yeah.
There's an elevation change, the road's up here, and we would probably have to put some kind of fence along that.
Ron, you can come up,
And
come up here and speak, and that way,
I'm Ron Cutler, Evan's dad. Yeah, that area up in there, the road's here and it kind of drops. There's a big elevation change. And so probably what we would do is run a fence somewhere from that bathroom facility along the upper edge, so people couldn't go either way, just for safety purposes.
and same with the bottom next to the walking track.
Yeah, there probably have to be some kind of fencing in here.
Yeah.
So that when people are walking or whatever, that there'll be a barrier, a safety barrier. In fact, this might just actually be pushed up a little more like that, more compact.
Yeah.
And this is like a drainage creek. It runs under the road. It kind of disappears in a pipe somewhere in here, but it does have running water.
Pete,
Shane, while the scouts and volunteers are working on this, what about insurance coverage? Could you talk about that?
Yep. Let me ask if Julie Brown can come in just for a few moments. I think she's handled the details there, so it's probably best for her to, I think, handle.
Evan, did you draw this?
Yes, sir. I did.
Did you help our town staff
I knew you were going there.
with some floor plans?
You saw the earlier drawing of the building. That's what he's
You
referring to.
beat me to it. I was getting ready to say it.
I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a great site plan.
Thanks. I took it on my drone. Which I have.
I'm sorry?
I took the photo on the drone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
We're behind times, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Step on in, Jennifer.
Reached out, actually had Nicole reach out to our insurance company. Nicole, do you remember the number off the top of your head?
So she didn't give us a number, she just said, some specifications to make sure that they had in place, certificate of insurance, naming down as additional insured and, errors and emissions coverage.
So our insurance company, the League of Municipalities would require for the contractor or the Boy Scouts, whoever, to provide to us, like typical, their cover of insurance and their policy that we would hold during the project.
So we'd be carried as additional insured on the policy, their policy.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are you going to have to take out all the rhodos?
The rhododendrons?
Yeah.
No, just around the track and, just gonna cut them. Not gonna take them out of the ground unless they're directly in the way, but we have like chainsaws and stuff.
You looking for some bushes out?
Just so I can't see you.
Council,
Funding?
funding?
So money wise, we wouldn't really need anything. My dad's an architect, so he has a lot of people locally that do soil and stuff donate to the Boy Scouts, and we could get donations. And also, it's like mainly donations of the rock dust. Sorry, it's not coming to my brain. And the dirt, and with the dirt that we would dig out, the topsoil for the trails, we could also use that on the jumps and stuff.
I will have to say, council, when I first moved back to Blowing Rock full-time, I got involved with Evan's dad with the building of the playground at the school. And you donated all your time.
Yes.
Plus some.
Yes.
So thank you for that. So I will say it.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that on our initial email, did we not send kind of a breakdown of materials and,
We did,
equipment.
which
Do
isn't.
they have that in their packet?
No.
No.
Okay, so there, for his Eagle Scout, application, he had to list
All the materials and
all
equipment.
the materials, quantities, who was going to potentially donate that, and what equipment and tools, and then how he was going to organize his implementation with his, with the scouts and the volunteer labor. I can put in, I mean, as far as costs go, Evan's right. I mean, I have a lot of connections as a landscape architect, and I will call in those favors.
So after the project's complete, the only maintenance cost to the town will be the mowing, which is already being done now.
Yes.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, the Boy Scouts would have the rest covered because we're always looking for more maintenance hours. Service hours, not maintenance, service hours, and the more of those, the better. And if and we can 100% implement a day of the year where the boys come and help revamp it all. Not at all, but just the stuff that's overgrown and stuff like that.
Grooming. The trail needs to probably be groomed twice a year, maybe once in the spring, maybe once in the fall,
Depending.
raking.
What's the life expectancy of this track?
Probably, as long as the Boy Scouts are taking care of it, probably 30 years or so.
Still be okay with it.
I'm not really sure though, because I've never, I wouldn't know that much.
It takes a life of its own as they ride the trail, how they hit it. And that's where that annual grooming just kind of brings you back.
Like maybe 10 to 30 years. I'm not really sure, depending on how people ride it and if there's people that are like set out to destroy it, which there may be people like that in this town. I'm not sure.
So these hard rains that we get won't rut it.
No.
What we had planned on doing is we were gonna obviously bring in the soil to create the mounds and the bumps and the trails. And then we were going to work with Vulcan Materials to get the crusher run to then place actually on where the bike tires go and then compact that.
With like stone dust and we're gonna compound some different dirt with some stone dust and have a compactor to compact it, so the rain shouldn't be an issue, I don't think.
And then it will be grass seeded. Sod's out of our budget, but we will seed it. The edges.
Pete?
Jennifer, will there be an outreach to the community saying there's an opportunity to support this? And
We can absolutely do that for sure. This would not be our first Eagle Scout project that we have done either. We've had several other Eagle Scouts who've done different things throughout our park system, signage and different things, so.
I think it'd be a great idea because there's probably people out there that will write some checks.
We'd probably also get bicycles off of our new playground surface and playground area as well.
So who's gonna police this? And by that, I mean, well, it's a fair question. I mean, right now, I see the challenges that we have policing and scheduling other park amenities, tennis courts, pickleball courts, things of that nature. I mean, who's gonna police this?
In my opinion, I think this is more of a, you get off of school or it's a pretty day and your kid wants to go ride their bike down there and they can go ride their bike. If it becomes a problem, then that's something that we would have to deal with. But I don't know that it necessarily has to, more than one person can crack, am I correct? with
Oh
that?
yeah, probably like up to like 4 or 5 at a time. I mean, probably more than that. Actually, probably like 10. I mean, just however many are there at a given time. But what do you mean by policing it?
Well, I'm sure there's a maximum, so if.
Oh, policing how many people are on it.
Policing how many people
Oh.
are on it,
Yeah.
when people can be on it, who's gonna get people off of it when they're not supposed to be on it.
I was kind of thinking, my mindset was something like Rocky Knob that that just doesn't really have a police amount of people that are gonna be on it. Although I'm not sure if that's different with different places in this county. But I wasn't. I didn't think through the policing part.
Generally at Rocky Knob, there's always a parent or two around that do some enforcing. And that's how they kind of do it there. I mean, just like when your kid's on the playground, they're kind of watching their kid on the playground.
Yeah, and with the different trails going up through here, this would probably take like 5 minutes to ride up and down, or maybe like 3 minutes or something like that. So if I feel like the amount of people we could have on this, I don't think it'd overpopulate. But if it did, then I mean I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that part.
The one thing we could do is make sure that we work with the police department, I guess, to make sure there's clear sight lines that when they're driving by, you know what I mean, that you can see in there. So if there's clear sight lines and stuff, that too is a good way of knowing what's going on and policing it.
I think we can also probably talk to Thomas and potentially add a security camera down there if we needed to from the bathroom sides when we're adding other stuff, so.
I do have a question, counsel. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great idea. My hat's off to you for your hard work and your ingenuity. If a child is riding their bicycle and they fall and break their leg, they're on town property, who's liable then?
To me, I would see it no different than when they go out on the playground.
Yeah.
And they come down the slide and break their leg. I mean,
Okay.
that's-
Or jump off something tall.
Okay,
Or they're playing tennis and fall and
fair enough.
hurt their wrist or something.
I would add, we've not discussed this, but I do think proper signage would be required as well. So I'm sure that's something we can work out with some ground rules, open and closed type of thing, whether that's dusk to dawn, et cetera, along with our typical signage that we add that is, added to our playground and others that is a pleasure on wrist type of language. I think that's probably appropriate
It would be
for us
good
to add
for
to.
Evan to come up with that information and submit it to Shane. If
Because
we
it
also
will be an
choose to
age
approve
limit at
this.
times, won't it?
Correct. I do think we need to give some
Big kids on there
stipulations.
With the little kids.
That's right. I think we need to give some stipulations of age, hours, et cetera, that we could provide to you all to provide signage.
And maybe it does need to be fenced off, like we talked about. We're gonna have a fence at the top, fence down the bottom, so when the time comes and whatever time that is, I don't know how that works, but let's say it's dusk, whatever, the gate's shut, unlocked,
That would be the only two things that I would ask on it, is that we do at highway side and walkway side have some type of safety barrier there.
I agree.
Evan, when you say the Boy Scouts will maintain this, are you referring to your troop?
Yes, sir. We have over 40 people in our troop. So the people that we would have a lot, probably probably gonna stretch make this thing over a course of 2, maybe 3 days. I'm not sure, but we're just gonna see how it goes. But probably about 20 people a day, and the amount of people that could maintain this would probably be probably 30 people like once or twice a year.
And your troop is in,
Oh yeah, and to move up in scouting, you have to have service hours. So people would feel like if they didn't want to do it, they'd have to do it.
So
And your troop-
whether you're tenderfoot,
Yes.
You know, all the way through. You have to have service hours at each rank.
That's why a lot of people don't advance, because they don't have the opportunity to do service hours. Because there's only certain places, certain times to do service hours.
Your troop is based in Boone, correct?
Yes.
Blowing Rock, I don't believe has a troop any longer, so I think a lot of our Blowing Rock kids they sort of combined with them.
Yeah.
Evan's in 8th grade at Blowing Rock, and he
Oh,
was
yeah.
in Cub Scouts all the way through. Unfortunately, when COVID hit and all that, the Boy Scout troop is no more in Blowing Rock.
We
But
probably-
hopefully one day it will be.
You probably still have like 5 to 10 people from Blowing Rock School that go to the Boy Scouts up in Boone that I'm at. So
How many of your associates would use this park, bicycles?
my friends.
Your friends?
Oh, my personal friends.
Yes.
Probably about 5 of them.
Okay.
I only have really 5. I mean, I have more than 5 friends, but
More than I got.
Does Parks and Rec have an opinion of this?
Opinion, Jennifer? No?
I think he came to me and approached me about this, and we discussed different areas and options, and the area that he has chosen, I mean, it is very overgrown right now. There are pretty rhododendrons, like Albert said, and I think if we can keep some of those in between the track and stuff, I think it would be a good place to clean up and also give the kids an opportunity to ride their bikes in a safer place.
Council?
Wait a minute, let me say something.
Okay.
One observation and one question. Evan's not gonna have to go through life being a wallflower.
what?
Evan, I agree with you.
I didn't even hear it.
The other is there a maximum age to ride?
You're too old.
You wanna ride?
You good?
We should have a council day and they all can go out on the river cutting and ride the trails.
We should talk to our risk management individual down
Yeah, you
on that. Yeah.
I think we'd have to get with the Parks and Recreation Department on that.
Another thing now that I think about it, for the policing, how many people, we could just have a sign, that would definitely help. Because there will probably be people that don't follow the sign, but we always know that there will be people that do follow the sign. So even if, well, I hope we think that, I'm not sure anymore, but I know a sign would help, at least a little bit.
I think most, like you were talking about Rocky Knob Park, a lot of them police themselves.
Yeah, that's what they do. They
They're
don't
very
have.
good at that, about trying not to overcrowd.
Yeah, because then it's not even fun.
Skateboard park, same way.
Yeah.
They've done a great job with that. So.
All right, we good? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Albert?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Good job, young man.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Well, moving right along. You know, it's impressive to see young people doing things like this. This is great. Coming up, let's see. How about the comprehension plan bid approval? We'll do that. Okay. Since we're out of order.
Mayor and council, staff sent out an RFP, a request for proposal for comprehensive planning consulting services in January 2023. And the town received a proposal for benchmark planning in the amount of $88,200. The proposal is attached as well as the agreement for services. Funds are set aside in this year's budget for $50,000 and staff will request the remaining $38,200 for the remainder of the contract in the budget 23-24. Staff recommends moving forward in contract with Benchmark, as they've got a history of service with the town. Benchmark completed the 2014 comprehensive plan update, consulted and rewrote the sign ordinance in 2018, and assisted with the 321 visioning study in 2019. The scope of services in attachment A of the service agreement provides an outline for the comprehensive plan process. Briefly, initiation begins in March of this month, March of this year, this month. Background research in March and April, initial public comment in May, preparation of the draft plan in June through September, more public input in September and October, and then preparation and presentation of the final plan in November through January. Our request is that you approve the service agreement presented before you, and then also appoint 2 members of council to serve on the steering committee for the comprehensive plan.
Okay. Council, what are your thoughts? Yes,
Charlie, I'll say that Benchmark did a great job on 321. I was chairman of the planning board working with Kevin and citizens and people from all over. And I thought their methodology and how they put things together in the public hearing, they had a vote so that people could say yay or nay. And so I found them to be really good people and would recommend that we use them.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll approve this, and then the council will need to approve 2 individuals to be on the steering committee, okay? Or we'll disapprove it. So does someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we go with Benchmark, and go ahead and proceed with this.
I'll second it.
We have a first, second. Any further discussion?
No, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Okay. Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Okay. Approved. Now, who do you want the steering committee? I'll be more than happy to jump in if, because I know everybody's got their plates full. So,
I can, anybody.
is that okay?
I sat on the last one 14 years ago, it seems.
All right, you okay with that? Okay. Doug, you want in?
That's fine, did you want?
No? Come on, Melissa.
I'll.
Are you okay with the 2 of us? That means you're
Me
approving?
too. Breathing bodies. Yeah, absolutely. We'll take.
Well, that's debatable
Doug,
sometimes.
Doug and you. Doug and you. Yes, sir.
Okay, motion to approve Doug and me?
So moved.
Second, okay, somebody second.
I'll second.
All right, Albert had to step out for a moment, he had a call. So he votes yes. David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. We're also seeking membership on the subcommittee or steering committee from our planning board on Thursday.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for all your hard work. Now, you're retiring in what, 10 years?
Yeah.
That's what I
Somewhere in
thought.
there.
We have that on record.
Yeah.
Okay, Main Street Water Project, sewer sidewalk bid approval. Mr. Doug Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As we've discussed, the town is working hard to do a Main Street infrastructure project. That project includes replacing water line all the way through Main Street. That was funded by a state earmark. Replacing a section of sewer line in the central business district. Here, we'll say from Park Avenue to Pine Street, not all the way, just almost to Chestnut. That's also funded by state earmark. The next section was the North Main sidewalk, which goes from where the Bass Lake sidewalk stopped, there on the other side of Speckled Trout, down to Hill Street, the second side of Hill Street. that is, with that being proposed to be funded by the bond funds. The underground utilities, duct banks was part of that bid. That part is, hasn't been funded yet, so that part is on hold. Also, the paving of the street, milling Main Street and paving it from one end to the other will be on hold until the town has a funding agreement with NCDOT to pay for that, which they had, I mean, originally that was the expectation, is that DOT would pay for that. We just don't have a municipal agreement in place to pay for that, so we wouldn't be awarding that part of the project at this point. So the waterline project extends from basically one end of Main Street to the other to replace that whole section of 8-inch water line that's had many breaks over the years. I don't know if Matt kept counting. If you count notches on a shovel, the shovel broke in two, I would guess. But hopefully, you know, we're not too far off from that being replaced. And some of that is the oldest section of water line in Blowing Rock by far. So we had the sewer in two segments. The original project just had the sewer line right here in the central business district to be replaced. That was all that was originally what we asked for in the funding. There's a section of 18-inch sewer that is in Main Street that we've talked about replacing for the last 16 years, 17 years since we did the CIP in 2005 and 6. We haven't had money for it. We've replaced the section from there. That's right beside Chatola Lake, about where the art piece is. From there to the wastewater plant has been replaced through the highway widening project, through the Chestnut Ridge Sewer Service. The lower section was replaced. We haven't done the upper section. So really what we did was we went ahead and included the design of that and the bidding of that in the package. So if we had enough money, we would do that section. When you add that section in, it put the project a little over budget when we set aside contingency money that the state wanted us to do. So what we're recommending is we put that piece on hold for right now until the project gets a long ways. And before we get to the point of paving and everything, and that's probably sometime later this summer into the fall as we get a lot of the pipe done and we know where we stand budget-wise, we will probably be coming back to add that piece. That's our expectation. So the next section, the next piece that we're talking about awarding is the sidewalk project, which we have funding for from the bond proceeds from the low end of the Speckled Trout parking lot down to the north end of Hill Street. So through the project, we have the water line replacements, which has the low bid was $3,156,070.45, and the sewer section, the low bid was $801,640. The sidewalk was $326,502. So what I will say, let me back up to say, we advertised for bids and we had a bid opening on January 26th. We only had one bid, so we didn't open. We re-advertised, and on February 21st, we only had one bid, but we were able to open that bid because of the way the statutes are written. And that one bid was from Iron Mountain Construction Company, and their low total bid for all of the work was $8,628,791.45. That's for all the divisions. Iron Mountain is appropriately licensed to do the project. The town's worked with them many times over the last 20, 30 years successfully. They did the Sunset project, which had water, sewer, streetscape on it. So they've completed a number of other similar projects. They did the Sourwood water replacement. So they've done other work in the area. So what we're recommending is that and there was a math error with their bids. So the numbers that you see in the certified bid tab you provided has an asterisk, or actually it's colored in yellow, which ones had a math error. So those were corrected. So we're recommending that the town council approve awarding the water the 8-inch sewer section and the sidewalk part of the project for a total amount of $4,363,850.55. We also recommend setting aside a contingency for construction that's $207,753. And the reason that's an odd number of contingency is that takes the water, sewer, and the engineering costs associated with that, plus the contingency, add up to the $4.8 million that the town had funding for from the state. The sidewalk part of the ward would be above that, obviously. So our intention would be that on this project, water and sewer, we spend all of the $4.8 million. So that $207,000 will, if everything goes as it is, I don't have the sewer map up there, will pay for about half of that 18-inch sewer. So we're hoping that there'll be, there's a few places where we've added an extra valve or an extra fire hydrant, things like that in the quantities. So we hope there's some extra quantities to cover some of that extra cost, so we won't have to need the full amount. But like I say, we'll come back with that at a later date.
What was the cost on the 18-inch sewer line that was not replaced?
It's around about $400,000.
And so we're short about 150, 180,000?
Something like that, yes. And now that doesn't account in other factors like sales tax and other things that the town may get reimbursements for.
Doug, let me ask you a question. When you were talking about that piece down there, Chicago, when was the last time we changed that one going across the dam?
The one going across.
And there's sewer line that runs across the dam there?
The sewer line that runs across the entrance to the wastewater plant?
Yeah.
That section was replaced when we did the sewer and water to Chestnut Ridge.
Okay.
So yes, that section's been replaced. Everything from there, from that aerial crossing there at the corner of the gas station back to this point was replaced when the road was wide.
And where does the tolls, do they feed over anywhere?
They feed, one place feeds directly into the wastewater plant.
Okay.
There's a line the line that you were talking about, the aerial line that goes in, comes into the manhole one side and Chitola comes straight in. The other sections, I'm trying to think where they feed in. There's a section of sewer that cuts across in front of Tanger. That's the piece I'm talking about that cuts straight in. I think most of Chitola ties in that way.
Okay.
So I don't think they're connected to any of this section.
What do you think, council? Time to do it? We have a motion? Motion to approve water, 8-inch sewer, and sidewalk at a bid of $4,363,850.25 with a contingency of $207,703.
So moved.
Albert made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. Pete? Aye. Good to go.
Great.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Does that, in what percentage does that take care of our aging water systems in the town? Can you give me an idea?
The only idea I can have is not a whole lot. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't think of a creative lie to give you.
Somebody or
I mean, we've got there's a number of how much of this line, how much of the system's cast iron, how much of it's galvanized. We did that in 2014.
That's right.
When we talked about the bond. And it's a pretty significant number.
Okay.
But this has been the worst section for breaks over the last several years.
Okay.
Now, this won't allow sewer tap-ons for any of the people in town that don't have sewer now.
Correct. This is not an extension of sewer. This is just replacement of sewer.
Yeah, this just replaces sections in Main Street.
Do you know that number, Mr. Manager?
The number of
People that don't have sewer?
approximately 400 individuals do not have sewer in town.
Would that be equated to houses?
Yes, it is. So that is taking my rough math of the number of water customers minus the number of sewer customers, equate to about 400 individuals.
How many houses in town?
About 400, that's 400 houses, about 400 homes, 400 customers.
Do we have, how many total?
Water customers, we have 2,350-ish. Yeah, so we have about, say, 2,350, 2,400. So about 400 or a sixth of that number does not have sewer. Primarily in the, there's underserved sections of Mayview and Laurel Park are the two primary sections, probably exceed definitely more than the majority of that 400 are in those two areas.
Mayview's constrained by the current pump station, is that right?
That is one of the contributing factors is the pump station that will be replaced during the USDA loan process that's coming up. That is correct. And I will add that the other constraint on Laurel Park is the topography of it.
And rock.
And the rock and the cost of pumping that sewer.
Good.
If you recall, the pump station replacement at Mayview, which would be, I guess, equivalent to what something that would be taking place in Laurel Park, probably something very similar to that, I would say, is excess of $1 million just for the pumping station. So it's a pretty significant cost. Replacing the Mayview pump station will allow us to discuss potentially expansion of Mayview. Will, yes.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, look here. Memorial Park, Part F. We're back to Doug Chapman. Hello, Doug. Go for it.
So, and you recognize a lot of these slides look like the slides that we had for the retreat. But this is the slide, this is the layout of the park that the council approved applying for Part F application, which I guess was in the spring of 21, I think, the first time, or 22?
Right.
So that project was, that Part F application was approved, series later when budget changes happened. Eventually, so that project was eventually approved for a $500,000 budget. As we began the design of the project, there were a number of things that were changed and added. We talked about, we added separate pickleball courts, converting one of the basketball courts to a pickleball court. We moved where the picnic shelter was going to go to keep the volleyball court where it is. We're still replacing the tennis court. There's a lot of sidewalk work. Upgrading the bathrooms, all that's included in the project. The original project, and it was on the first slide, had a budget of $1,285,000. As we added more things to it, we didn't necessarily come up with a number. We expected it was going to be more. So on that project, we had a bid opening scheduled for January 29th, I believe it was, or 30th, 29th. At 2 o'clock, we didn't have any bidders show up for that project. So we re-advertised for February 21st, same day as the Main Street project, and we had one bidder show up. The low bid was provided by Green Construction Company, who's done a number of projects for the town. And their base bid was $2,984,483.88. That project, is well above the original budget and well above what we would expect the budget to be. I can't give you a great explanation why. I mean, we know how much things cost these days. So what we wanted to talk about was what are the strategies moving forward? We can, because we have a low bidder, we can negotiate with that bidder, or we can reject the bids and re-advertise. Typically, when we re-advertise for bids, we change the scope so that we're not just bidding the same project again. So we can look at reducing the scope. We can look at some phasing of the project. We do have a schedule, a timeline for Part F to be complete. We're well within that time frame. Typically, it's a 36-month completion, and I think that agreement was signed mid last year, something like that. So we still have time to do the Part F part of the project if we want to separate out and do some pieces now, some pieces as part of the Part F project.
So we could build the bathrooms now and rebid it?
Yes, we could take and move forward with just the bathrooms. We can rebid the bathrooms and move forward with just the bathrooms and then wait till a later time in the fall or next year and bid the rest of the park improvements, if we want to do that.
The bathrooms was the one part that didn't affect the Part F grant, right?
Yes, we did not get points for the Part F grant. At one point, we talked about using, because you have to have a 50-50 match with Part F, and the restroom money could count as part of the match. But I think even if we do the bathrooms, we're not gonna have to worry about spending $1 million on everything else. So we'll match the $500,000 Part F with the rest of the project.
What was the bathroom budgeted at?
Originally, I think it was $450.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if that included the renovation, because we're also renovating the existing bathrooms. So everything will be new. And there'll be tile walls, tile floors, new fixtures. There's a lot of.
Green's number was for that?
No, I don't remember that one off the top of my head.
So I've got a question. So will Green allow, we're going to have to rebid just the bathrooms, or will Green take their bid and just section off the bathroom bid and say, okay, we will do that bathroom with that amount of money? What are you looking for from council?
We can do either or. That's what statutes allow. You can negotiate with the low bidder. If you come to an agreeable price, then you can move forward. Or if you can't come to an agreeable price, you reject the bids and then rebid the project.
Yes, Pete.
Understanding the critical need for bathrooms, which Jennifer and all of us have talked about, Shane, I suggest we go ahead and go with the bathrooms and try and negotiate with Green to see if they're more accommodating, but we need the bathrooms, and let's do that first.
So are you making a motion?
I will.
Okay.
Second.
So your motion is to allow McGill to contact Green, stating that they would like to look at, the town would like to look at doing the bathroom reno and new bathrooms. And will you bring numbers back to us again? You don't think you'll need to for approval? So.
Wait until later on to rebid.
Yeah, and wait till later on to rebid.
I have one question in reference to that. Were we not using the bathroom portion to do our 50 match?
Yes.
So if we pull that out, where does that leave us in the future for our Part F grant and us matching?
We already have the
I think the rest of the project will still be $1 million.
I know we have the Part F grant, but that does not change the fact that we still have to match it in order to execute the grant.
Right.
And if we were using the restrooms as a chunk of that 50% match, I'm curious if we pull these out, what we're gonna do for that.
So I had a conversation with our representative with the state, with North Carolina Resources, and we can go ahead and do the restrooms, and we can do the rest of the project later, and it all coincides. We have 3 years to spend the money. So we can divvy it up, it can be separate contractors and all of that, so
As long as
it's all
within that 3-year span.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And
it all
if we
still
need-
counts.
If we need an extension, there is also that possibility of asking for an extension.
Second the motion.
Mr. Johnson just seconded Pete's motion. We have any additional discussion?
Yeah, so the motion, as I understand it, is to move ahead with the bathrooms, for which we don't have a bid on, correct?
We do have a bid on the bathrooms from Green, correct?
No.
The way, we have a bid on the project, and I understand the motion would be, we can go back and negotiate a price for the bathrooms with Green. If that price comes back acceptable, then the town could move forward and award it. Or we can reject the bid and re-advertising, just bid that piece out separately.
And they'd have to come back to you anyway.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Because, I mean, right now, we only have one bid to compare our numbers to.
I'm concerned about waiting on the rest of the park, tabling that till the summer or fall. Just because of so many things in the construction industry with regard to lead times, availability of contractors and all of that. And I would want us to go ahead and start figuring out how to make up that gap, without violating the terms of our Part F grant.
Well, one of the things that I will say as far as lead times go, once you take the bathroom out of the project, the rest of the project probably isn't long lead time items. And when you look at the project, you have, and this is why it's hard to get contractors to bid on parks. This isn't the only park that we've bid that we've had. I mean, this is the third park in the last several months that we've only gotten one bid on. Similar parks at least. You've got a large component that's site work, the grading, the paving, the courts, et cetera, and then a large portion that's building. So there is a reasonableness to separating those out into two projects. And if we did rebid, we're likely to receive, we could get more bids because it's just a building project at that. And a building contractor could bid on that, and they don't have to sub out as much if they're trying to sub out all the other site and amenity work.
So I guess David's main concern is he doesn't, he don't want to kick the can down through the park.
But we don't want to spend $2 million either.
That's right.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
That what we think is really over budgeted there.
Right. But so essentially, Doug, you're saying, by doing this, this takes a large piece of that puzzle out that still will open the door to possibly more bids for the park project, for the recreational parts of the park project. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And if we end up rebidding the built bathroom by themselves, that probably opens that up too.
Okay. What do you think, council?
Call the question.
We have second. Any further discussion? Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Thank you, Doug. All righty.
Thanks, Doug.
Have a good evening, Doug. Thanks. Okay, back when you all chose the groups for the different, for planning and Board of Adjustments and so on, there was an issue that arose with Board of Adjustments alternate. Kevin, you want to take the lead on that?
Sure. So at the February regular meeting, council appointed citizens to the various volunteer boards. After the initial vote, there remains a spot available for an alternate member on the Board of Adjustment. As a current member, Sarah Murphy was moved to a regular member position. So after reviewing the volunteer applications, I recommend the appointment of Brooks Mason to serve as Board of Adjustment alternative member for a 3-year term. And his information was included, I think you had it last month, but I put it in the packet as well.
Albert makes a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
David, second. Discussion? Okay, Albert? David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. All righty, wow. Just a couple of short notes. As mayor, I would like to thank all the conservancy groups that are out here conserving our natural resources. Gosh, I mean, we've got Blue Ridge, Conservancy Group, Corps of North Carolina, Foothills, New River. Wow. And it's great to see all that happening. I want to say thank you to you guys. I want to thank you to the Foothills Conservancy, which is acquiring the property down in the valley. And gosh, the Middle Fork Greenway Group, it's just amazing. It's great to see. Thanks to all, and Albert, what you got? Anything? Comments?
Very good meeting. You usually go first. What happened to you?
I did. You're next. I was short and sweet tonight.
Okay, I didn't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Dave?
Recently, I attended I think all of us were invited, but I attended a seminar at the Children's Council called Think Babies. Mr. Fox serves on the board of that organization, and I have to tell you, it was incredibly impactful for me what that organization does. I got to hear stories firsthand from moms and what that organization means to them and the challenges that they face. And daycare was definitely toward the top of that list. And as I look at our town and what our community can do and what the Blowing Rock Academy is going to provide for our employees is cannot be understated. And I'm so glad that we're doing that and really want to applaud Mr. Fox and all the staff that worked on that. Is just a wonderful thing.
Thank you, Dave. Melissa?
I'm just excited about all the projects we have in our future. I'm excited for our town.
Well, that's thanks to you guys and the citizens and Shane and all the department heads. Wow. Dave?
I guess mine's gonna be a little long. I just got back from 2 weeks ago from risk management meeting, with the League of Municipalities, as the representative up here, and just a few things to mention for y'all and the public is that, we settled on the insurances all the way across the board, and it looks like, we've held it down as much as we can, but the bad news is in each category, there will be a significant increase this year. And all managers are pretty well aware of that now. Some of the things that we were advised on also down there, and I'm sure Melissa will back me on this, that we're hearing is one of the ways that like they're looking at handling affordable housing is a lot of it is through deregulation, is cutting back a lot of the powers that the towns have and opening that up. One of the things that there's 3 or 4 bills out there right now, and have bills that can be there 1 minute and disappear. One of them is they're looking about the possibility of doing away with ETJs. One of them's looking at offering up to $1 million if you'll build if you'll have a multi-district inside your town, to where you have more townhouses, complexes, apartments. They're offering up to maybe $1 million in infrastructure needs. Some of the ways that they're trying to open up that. So just keep in mind, and I'm sure Melissa hears it all the time, what we hear one day could be completely gone tomorrow, and just as fast they can have a new one on there too. So that's as up to date as I know right now. So.
Thank you, Doug. Pete?
Just a couple things, a reminder that we have our Economic Development Commission meeting here on Thursday. Charlie's going to welcome the group, and Shane is going to make a presentation on the healthcare situation, and I'm sure that everybody will be looking forward to that.
And Pete, is that going to be held here or the Legion Hall?
American Legion.
Okay.
1 to 2:30. 1 to 2:30, and the public's invited, and I hope anybody that's interested will come by. The second thing, I have received a number of calls on the email that was sent out on the 81% approval of the utility thing. And I'm sorry that Tom is not here, because I was going to ask him a number of questions that have been asked of me, and I have no idea how to answer them because I'm not part of the group that's doing this. So some of the questions would be, was this approved by the board? Who was it sent out to? Because
I didn't get it. Did you get it?
I didn't get it, Shane didn't get it, Charlie, you didn't, I don't
I
know.
didn't get it.
David, did you? Melissa, did you?
We must be the 19%.
Pardon me?
We must be the 19%.
Yeah. So, how many respondents did they have? How did they arrive at that 81%? Because I think that needs to be clarified, but since they're not here, I'm not sure how that's gonna work unless I just call Tom and pose these questions to him.
That'd be a good idea, because I've had numerous calls on it too.
Yeah,
People want to know where they were supposed to vote.
yeah.
How they
And the other question was, why didn't I get a vote? I mean, are they using a different list than other lists? I don't know. So anyway, I'll follow up with Tom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Alan?
Nothing now.
Yet. Mr. Fox?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I would have to agree, good meeting tonight. Thank you for allowing us to move forward with very important projects, overdue and much needed projects, I might add, and the staff appreciates your willingness to allow us to move forward with those projects. Main Street alone has been talked about for a number of decades, so that is a tremendous win for us that will limit our need of repairs that normally happens in the middle of winter. A couple of dates I'll provide of upcoming meetings. Our TDA meeting is next Tuesday, the 21st at 3:30. We do have our paid parking town hall meeting, which is going to be a FAQ kind of question and answer town hall format with Chief Miller and myself on 3/28, so March the 28th at 6 p.m. at the American Legion. So March 28th, 2 weeks from today, 6 p.m. American Legion. We will have up in the room itself some FAQ information on paid parking, and then Chief Miller and I will go through what you've seen as our paid parking proposal and allow for anyone within the audience to have a question and answer back and forth. We have encouraged you all to attend, but necessarily not participate, as that will be coming to you more than likely in April or May. We also have this Thursday representatives from Senator Tillis and Representative Fox coming to town after the Appalachian breakfast. So this Thursday, we do have the Appalachian Community Breakfast at Appalachian State that you all are invited to. And then following the breakfast, representatives from Tillis and Fox will be coming over to town, I think, to hopefully take a tour if the weather is permitting. Also go out to the Rock, and our goal is to share with them some of these wonderful projects and see if there's any potential monies to be had that are out there.
I'm gonna take them out there only if I can get a discount.
If you know someone, right?
Yeah.
If you know someone at the Rock. Budget process has began, so that's, good news. That's about a year-long process, but that has now has started, and we have meetings this week with department heads. So get ready for some budget fun coming up in the next few months. I did want to point out one thing that I thought was important to note within our staff reports under the police department. If you noticed, they made 311 traffic stops during the month of February. That was up from over 250 in the month of January, but that alone are close to 600 stops in 2 months. So if you've been along through 21 recently, you've seen them out there.
They made that many on Saturday.
So that is more than 10 a day over the last 2 months. So we're very appreciative of them. Other than that, I will save everything else I have for a decently lengthy closed session. Yes, sir.
One question. The police report also said they had 4,100 contacts. Is that a valid figure?
It is. I'm not sure if Chief is here tonight, but every time they are doing a foot patrol, property check, traffic stops.
There he is.
There he is. If you want to just explain the 4,000 number, what all that entails.
You were doing a good job.
Thank you.
Anytime we have any kind of contact, a foot patrol, traffic stop, anything counts in that number. It's not necessarily calls that come into our communication center that are dispatched, but it's also the officer initiated activity. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I would add, part of that traffic number does include one of our 2 new officers. Our second one has not started yet. He's finishing up basic law enforcement. But William, who was sworn in last meeting, has started with us and on the night shift, and I think has definitely contributed to that number along 321.
Oh, absolutely.
What head count does the dog count?
The dog is not quite in service yet, so it is counting as a 0 right now. But the dog is not quite certified, but will be coming on soon.
It won't be long.
Will not be long, that's correct.
He rides in a car marked K9.
He rides with William. William, the K-9 rides with William, the officer. That is correct.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute recess, and then we're going to go into closed session.
North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A3.
Thank you so much for attending this evening. There should be no decisions made during closed session. So.